Back-to-back pod listeners, I got a deal for you. Buying tickets to sports and concerts can be complicated and confusing, but there is a better way to buy with SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the smartest, easiest way to get tickets to every type of live event, whether you're searching for a last-minute deal, planning a night out, or you need to find the perfect gift for your girl or your guy. SeatGeek is there to help you find the best seats at the best prices, fully guaranteed. There's nothing quite like seeing your favorite team or musician in person, and SeatGeek will get you closer to the action for a great value. I have the SeatGeek app on my phone, and it's by far the easiest way I've found to shop for tickets. I can be anywhere, and with just a few taps, I can instantly find seats. I actually just used SeatGeek to buy tickets for my friends to see LeBron in the flesh on Wednesday here in Charlotte. It was so easy. It was like LeBron open court with a guy under the basket and then Kevin Love in the corner. Yeah, it's as easy as that. So SeatGeek is super nerdy. It's in the title, geek, and it saves time and money by searching for multiple ticket sites to compare prices and find amazing deals. It's color-coded. You don't have to do the math. I don't have to get out my well-worn calculator. I don't have to do all that stuff. It does the hard work for me. SeatGeek grades every ticket based on value to help you immediately identify the best seats that fit your budget, and every purchase is fully guaranteed, so you can shop for tickets on SeatGeek with confidence. Make SeatGeek your go-to app for finding the best deals on every type of ticket, from sports to concerts to comedy and theater. So, all my listeners here on the Back-to-Back pod, you get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Just download the SeatGeek app and enter promo code B2B. That's B, the number 2B. Promo code B2B for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Go geek out with me. Bontemps on the line. Timmy Goodtimes is here, as well as Coach David Thorpe from Clearwater, Florida. I don't want to hear how little clothes Dave is wearing right now, but I will just say it is a crisp 78 degrees here in Charlotte. So take that.
Nice.
Anyway, speaking of stealing, Kemba Walker, after he etched his name as the number one scorer in Charlotte Hornets franchise history, after the game, LeBron James came over to give him a big hug. LeBron was sitting on the bench, ran over to Kemba, gave him a big hug, said something in his ear, and then after a friend of the program, Stephanie Reddy, did an interview with Kemba Walker, he said, "I am not supposed to be here," which is a line that LeBron James has said many, many times about growing up in Akron with a single mother and basically not given the odds to be where he is. And Kemba Walker, a New York native, used that same line to describe his legacy and how humbling and honored he was to have the all-time scoring record for a franchise, an NBA franchise. And you guys know it was Del Curry who held that before?
I did when I saw the highlights and everything, yeah.
So Kemba was emotional. He was crying. It was a really cool moment. The whole place was giving him a standing ovation, giving Charlotte fans something to cheer about, because it's been a really rough season, marred by injury, not only to the players but to Steve Clifford. But this was a really cool moment to watch, not just because of Kemba Walker's really cool moment, but also LeBron James and his influence around the NBA, and he reiterated the fact after the game he thinks he deserves MVP. And Tim, as someone who's covering the league right now, how do you feel about this LeBron James, who is pointing the finger at himself, not just on Instagram, but touting himself to the media as, hey, I should be the MVP?
I mean, listen, LeBron, I get what LeBron is doing, but I don't really think it matters much. I mean, at this point, we're only figuring out if James Harden's going to win unanimously or win with 80 or 90% of the vote, right? I mean, I agree. I mean, yeah, LeBron is the best player in the league. I'm sure he thinks he should win MVP. I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know. What else is he supposed to say? Like, yeah, somebody else should win. It's kind of a shrug emoji, I guess, for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I think he does. He talks out of both sides of his mouth, like all he wants to do is be the best player on the court every night. He doesn't care about the MVP award. He's all about winning. He's all about championships, but he's touting himself as the MVP at the same time. And it is weird to think that LeBron could finish his career with, 4 MVPs to his name?
Yeah. Currently.
And, he's had, I think, top 5 finishes in MVP for like 12 straight years or something crazy like that. So he has been MVP worthy for about a decade now. And so I'm guessing he feels like, hey, my team is 45-30. Without me, where would we be? And he's played in every single one of those 75 games. So we don't really know what they'd be without him. But given what happened to Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder, Kevin Love's injury, Derrick Rose thing didn't work out, he has a little bit of a case in terms of his value to that organization, value to that team, but ultimately I don't think we're going to see a 40-something win team have another MVP like we saw last year with Russell Westbrook and the Thunder having 47 wins. So Houston Rockets get 61 wins right now. They're probably going to win close to 70, and I think James Harden has the case for MVP. I think he'll win almost unanimously, if not unanimously, but LeBron James is so good. So good. I was just talking about how he was like bigger. He played bigger than Dwight Howard in yesterday's game. And Coach, you've been watching LeBron James as closely as anybody over the years, but how has his game been different this year, if it has, in your eyes, just how skilled he is and if he's adding more skills to his game?
So before I get into that, I want to address the point you made about Kemba, who, by the way, could also have an argument as in terms of pure value. How many teams do they win without him? It's really more of an most outstanding player award than most valuable, whatever valuable means. The point you made about Kemba, I think, Tom and Tim, is a direction that we're going with athletes, at least in this sport, only because I don't follow any other sport. I couldn't name 10 NFL players or 5 Major League players anymore, where that word vulnerable is not such a scary word anymore, right? I even go back to when LeBron did his decision on TV, which was an unmitigated PR disaster. It was still a couple young dudes who wanted to control the story instead of letting a bunch of old people, mostly white, do it. And they messed up. And they've been fantastic ever since. They've learned from their mistake. But I think that's part of having the comfort of being more transparent is when you start owning something and don't have to play the game and pretend, the old, I'm sure you guys are younger than me, but I know you know the movie Bull Durham, where Kevin Costner's character is teaching the young guy, we just take them one at a time, all the baseball cliches. Every sport has those same cliches. And there's a place for it for a lot of different reasons that we can discuss some other time. But there's another side to this, because sports really is the religion now of much of the world, as much as any religion would be, maybe. And so therefore there are positions of leadership and responsibility and aspects of inspiration that make a difference to people, including Kemba Walker admitting, I shouldn't be here. Well, he is there because basketball and because of his heroes who kept him more on the straight and narrow, maybe totally on the straight and narrow than maybe he otherwise would. And I've lived this for a long time with coaching players who probably shouldn't be here either. Some of them are grown men with kids of their own, and some of them are kids now dealing with very tough situations in life. And it's men like LeBron and Steph and even Trae Young now who inspire them to go work on their game and go work on their bodies and pay attention in school, and maybe otherwise they wouldn't. So I think it's incredible that we have a league now where I didn't like when Steph Curry brought his little girl to the podium, only because I just wanted to get the information and be done when I was watching on TV at home in the finals or whatever. But that's part of the deal, is that we're starting to see them as real people. And I love it personally, as someone who's in the business to inspire as a coach, to see these guys being okay to cry. The macho and machismo has ruined a lot of things in this world. And the best way to get out of it is to embrace those that recognize that you're no less of a man by being open and transparent and crying, emotional, and available to their fans on a more human level. So that being said, what's probably made LeBron the biggest jump LeBron made beyond skill acquisition and craft acquisition over experience is his understanding of how the game needs to be played, his valuing of positions on the court. So when he was 21 or 20, just throw him the ball at 32 feet and let him go make a play, which, by the way, he still has, I think, too much. But as he got older, he started recognizing more and more, if I can catch the ball 1 inch from the rim, it's a lot easier than if I have to catch it 32 feet away. So you're starting to see him, and have for quite a number of years now, started to see him valuing those spots on the floor, pinch post action, low post action, catch the ball in spots where he's 1 dribble away or even no dribbles away. That's what's made him the most unstoppable offensive player, not named James Harden, is he can play the position game as well as the skill craft physical game. And then his IQ, he's a computer genius in his brain. I used to always say Chauncey Billups had a computer brain. So does LeBron. He reads it immediately, recognizes everything. If they did a pattern acquisition test, he'd probably test off the charts. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson would have as well. He's just twice the athlete they were at the same size and stronger. So all those things put together have turned him into this incredible force that, to me, is right there with the top 2 or 3 players of all time if he retired tomorrow.
I mean, he broke Michael Jordan's record, tied it. I can't remember. Tied it. Michael Jordan's record of consecutive double-digit scoring games, and that's probably not even his best skill, scoring. Last night,
by choice,
in Michael Jordan's building, he matched Jordan on that, and it's an amazing accomplishment, not just for LeBron, but just a testament to his consistency. I mean, last night he was in a back-to-back, Miami the night before, Charlotte last night, and he dropped 41 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, and blew out the Hornets on their home floor. He had 4 threes. He got to the line a whole bunch. It was just a masterful performance. And LeBron James, it's amazing. He's had he's averaged a triple-double over the past 23 games. And yet James Harden has been so good that I think he might get, a unanimous MVP.
And the Rockets have been so good.
Yes. But, I think people don't realize, to get back to Kemba, last 3 seasons he has been their organization. Kemba Walker, as of March 23, so earlier this week, with him on the floor in the last 3 seasons, the Hornets are plus 639. With him off, it swings the other direction, minus 399, a gap of over 1,000 points, depending on whether Kemba Walker is on the floor or not. If that doesn't speak to how valuable he is, not just to the Hornets, but to the organization, I don't know what will. Last night, he struggled in the beginning, but he got the franchise record for points over Del Curry, and it was cool to see that moment between Kemba and LeBron. But Tim, do you have any more thoughts on this? Just the last couple weeks of the season here, the jostling of MVP stuff between LeBron and James Harden.
I mean, there's no jostling for MVP at all. James Harden's going to win. But the stat you just brought up is why the Hornets should have traded Kemba Walker in the first place, because their team sucks and their organization isn't going anywhere. And in a year, Kemba's going to be a free agent. And for as happy as he was to set the all-time scoring mark for the franchise last night, I just don't see any reason why he would stay there. It would fly in the face of what basically every free agent has done in the last 2 decades in the NBA. And I just think they blew a real opportunity to get off some of the bad money they have and start the rebuild they're inevitably going to have to undergo sometime in the next 18 months, either before Kemba leaves or willingly or after. And I really don't understand why they didn't trade him 2 months ago and get, especially in a market where there weren't a lot of guys available. I think they could have got a lot for him, and I just really think that was a missed opportunity on their part.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, you're dealing with Rich Cho being fired, and then you're dealing with the All-Star game in 2019 is going to be in Charlotte. So there was a lot of political moving parts there. Last year, I remember the Lakers went through, the trade deadline without a GM, or switching, firing Mitch Kupchak and bringing Magic Johnson in the middle of the trade deadline. That was last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yep.
Just a lot of big time decisions for Charlotte, and Kemba Walker. I used to think that he would be a great as a super sub, as a Jamal Crawford, Lou Williams type, where he'd come off the bench and be a scorer. But this guy is proven he's good enough to be a number 2 scoring option, number 1 scoring option, however you want to slice that. He's made more threes than any player since Thanksgiving. Kemba Walker, who didn't have a good 3-point shot until like 3 years ago. He's doing his best. He's not Steph Curry, but he's doing a pretty good facsimile of Steph Curry in terms of the pull-up threes, the pick and roll. He's not quite the passer or as inventive as Steph Curry, but he's a good player, and I'm curious to see what happens with him.
Yeah, he's great. It really is too bad that his team is awful because, like you said, I mean, he's been, quietly one of the best players in the league for the last 2 or 3 years, and he doesn't get as much credit as he would because his team is horrible. And even though he is playing, like you said, he's playing out of his mind, it doesn't really matter when they just don't have the goods to keep up with anybody else, because whenever he's not on the court, they become, if not the worst team in the league, certainly one of them, automatically.
Last night, Jeff Van Gundy, I believe, said the Rockets are the favorites. Coach, you agree with him?
Yeah, I do, and I have for a little bit now. They've earned it. I think there is something to the idea of hunger, and I believe the Warriors, if totally healthy, would be able to get that, unbelievable desire to win, that incredible need to compete every second possible on the court, in practice, watching film. But I'm not sure even then it would necessarily mean they'd beat Houston. I've always allowed Houston as a team that could win. I favored Golden State if both teams were super healthy. That just no longer is the equation. I've always thought their bench was suspect. I'm still not that impressed. I love how they play as an organization, what their offensive style is. Obviously, I don't have to talk about their assets on the court, but they're beat up. And to think that they just necessarily are going to beat Houston because they're the Warriors, I don't believe brand names win. And I think that this is the way it goes so often in the NBA, where you just have to taste crushing disappointment. There are exceptions, of course, but that crushing disappointment drives you as a human, not to mention an athlete, a thoroughbred athlete, to reach other levels. And I believe Harden and Paul have tasted that. I think their coach has too. My biggest question would be, how is Mike going to coach them? Is he going to get conservative and tight? Is he going to be more loose and let the guys play, which is something he does so expertly in the regular season? I think it's an amazing series when they play, if they indeed play. Let's see if Curry even comes back, because then I think it won't matter if he doesn't. And so I think Golden State can win. I just don't favor them anymore. I think Houston's the better team if you project going forward. And unless something happens to Harden or Chris Paul or Clint Capella, who's incredible in his own way, I think Houston's got the better advantage to win 4 of 7.
If the Warriors are healthy, they're going to win the finals.
Yeah. See, that's where you and I just don't think
that's fine. The Warriors played it 70% through the All-Star break and had the same record as Houston, and then have had a month of injuries since then. Right. So, I mean, look, the Rockets have played unbelievably. They're a great team. They're the second best team in the league at minimum. I love D'Antoni. I love his style. I love the way that team has come together. They are an incredible team. But the Warriors were ready. Like, their whole season was built around, we're going to get to the All-Star break, and then we're going to we're going to ramp up the last 25 games. We're going to go into the playoffs just like they did last year, on a roll, and they're going to be fine. And then basically from the moment the All-Star break ended, they've had one injury after another for a month. So, I mean, look, if they're obviously this banged up in late May, yeah, Houston's going to be the favorite. But if Golden State walks into that series with their guys healthy, and as of now, I don't see any reason to think they won't be. Steph, I think, is going to be back at the start of the second round. The other 3 guys are all going to be back by the end of the weekend. Katie and Draymond are playing tonight. Steph, I think, or Clay, I think, is going to play Saturday in Sacramento or maybe early next week. They still have 4 of the best 15 players in the league, and no other team has that. And I think at the end of the day in the playoffs, when they're playing 40 plus minutes a game, they're going to be the best team and the one that I'm going to count on to win in the end. However, with as good as Houston's been, I mean, I'm not going to say that you're wrong, Coach, that or say anybody else, or that's Jeff Van Gundy or you or anybody else that says that Houston's the favorite the way they played. But I just think that, at the end of the day, it's why I've been on Cavs Warriors all season is the finals, is that at the end of the day, if I have to pick, the Warriors or somebody else to come out of the West, or if the Cavs or somebody else to come out of the East, I'm sticking with the Warriors and I'm sticking with LeBron. And if I go down with those options and I end up being wrong, I can live with that. I would feel a lot dumber about it if I said, "Oh yeah, I think this is the year that LeBron loses in the second round and then he steamrolls through the East," or if I say, "Oh yeah, the Rockets are going to beat the Warriors and then lose in 5 or 6 to them." I think by the time the playoffs come around, they're going to be ready to go and they're going to be fun.
Well, hold on though, Tim. So I agree with you. First of all, it's not 4 of the best 15 or whatever Klay Thompson is not in the same world as Draymond and Curry. But Curry, he's been out how long? A week, 2 weeks? You think he's back the first day in May? You think he immediately comes back?
I think he's going to be back at the start of the second round.
Okay, that's what I mean.
That's been my thought since he got hurt.
First day of May. What is that? First round. It takes forever, right?
Yeah, around the beginning of May.
Okay.
Whatever day he got hurt, whatever day he got diagnosed, it was 5 weeks later would be the start of the first round.
So here's what I'm saying. This is why I'm saying they're not the favorite. Is I don't think being out 5 weeks and you come back and you're back to being a top 3 player, top 4, 5, 6 in the world. I think there is a process. That doesn't mean he won't have moments. He's still going to make a bunch of threes from 30 feet and whatever. But overall, and I love everything about the Warriors behind the scenes and how they get their guys back and all that. I just don't think he gets back to full strength just by showing back up. I feel differently if it was 10 days. Totally differently. If you told me he's back playing in the first game of the playoffs, I don't know if I would not say Golden State is the favorite.
Well, but I guess my only counter to what you're saying is that if you're going to say 10 days later he's going to be good, they're not going to have to play Houston for another 2.5 weeks.
Yes, but he'll have been out for 5 weeks prior to that.
So here's my thing though, guys. We're assuming that when they get back, they'll be fully healthy and won't get injured the rest of the way.
This is what I'm saying. It's my point.
It's like when Steph Curry comes back from a sprained MCL on the bad ankle, it was his same bad ankle, right?
Believe so.
So it was his left ankle and his left.
I believe it was the left one on both. Yeah.
Right. So I'm saying he was coming back from an ankle injury, hurts his knee in the same leg. Kevin Durant has a fractured rib, which, if you know anything about basketball or athletics, like a fractured rib is something that lingers, and if you get hit on a hard screen from, say, Steven Adams,
when you get hit on a hard screen,
that shit's not going away. And so and the same thing with Klay Thompson, his shooting hand.
Well, he's got fracture. Just to be clear, I want to say it's fractured rib cartilage. Just to be clear on no, I know. I'm just being clear on the injury. That's all. I don't know. It was a weird injury. I don't think I'm going to look up exactly what it was.
It's an injury. It's an injury that sidelined him for 2 weeks, and maybe this is kind of a covert mission from Steve Kerr and the organization to just give him 2 weeks off right before the playoffs. Maybe that's the case. But I look at these injuries as like not injuries that as soon as they get back, they'll be A, 100%, or B, it won't linger.
Incomplete rib cartilage fracture, which I don't know what that means.
Right. Who knows? But
it's painful enough to miss games. That's Tom's point.
What's hard for me is that, like, on paper, the Houston Rockets are the better team. Just by the metrics, they're the better team. They're the healthier team. They've proven that they can win fast. They've proven that they can win slow. Chris Paul has not proven that he can get to the finals, and neither has James Harden as the number one guy. But then you throw the other way with the Warriors. It's just there's so many health question marks that I don't think Steve Kerr was at the beginning of the season expecting that 4 of his all-stars were going to be banged up coming into the playoffs. Of course there would be wear and tear, and of course you would want to rest them. But as I've heard all the time from Cavs officials over the last couple of years, they kind of felt like the Warriors got lucky from an injury standpoint, that the ball didn't bounce the Cavs' way in terms of injuries. I don't know if that's true when you look at the fact that Steph Curry hurt his ankle in a couple playoffs ago, then that Kevin Durant hurt his knee in the last playoffs, and then of course the Draymond Green suspension. Bogut, exactly. Like, it's not like they've been.
It's kind of hard. It's pretty hard to say the Warriors got lucky injury wise when they had this between the Steph stuff and I mean, I guess they got lucky last year with KD, but I mean,
right.
that it wasn't worse. But
I mean, it's not lucky that he got hurt, right?
Right. Well, right. I mean, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, never mind.
But this,
they got more lucky.
I'm just a little off that argument.
Yeah, I'm with you. Because
they got more lucky with their opponents being injured. Nurkic was out in round 1. I forget who was out in round 2. Kawhi gets hurt game 1 at being blown out round 3.
You could say the same thing about the Cavs. The Cavs.
I'm not taking a side. I'm only saying that's probably a better argument than the Warriors being lucky. They won fair and square. The Cavs won their one championship fair and square. The Warriors have been the best team, almost 4 years running now. This late season swoon because of injury has allowed Houston to take that spot. But Golden State's place in legacy is well established, in my opinion.
Right. I mean, like every year we say that the champion should have an asterisk next to their name because of the injuries or the luck that they got. But the whole point of an asterisk is that it's an exception. And the rule is that the last team standing, the champion, always catches some injury breaks right along the way.
Sure.
If the whole point of an asterisk
is to get lucky at some point.
Right. An asterisk points the exception, not the rule. And if we know anything about the NBA champions, that the rule is that you have to get some injury luck along the way. That's just the way it is. And for the Cavs, Isaiah Thomas missed that series against the Cavs, or much of that series against the Cavs. And then you look at Kyle Lowry got hurt for half the series against the Raptors in the previous series. So both sides have caught some injury luck, and at the end of the day, that's what's hard for me is we all have to play armchair doctors, right? We have to look at the Warriors situation and assess who is more injured. Like, is Steph Curry collectively more liable than Kevin Durant's rib cartilage, whatever that is? All these injuries. How much do we have to see for us to say the Houston Rockets just are better right now? They're better equipped to win going forward.
Right. And to your point, like, I can't look into a crystal ball and say that, like, say these guys are going to be healthy. Right. I also can't look into a crystal ball and say that the Rockets are going to be healthy since they've had guys like Chris Paul has been hurt a lot. Clint Capella's always got issues. So, like, all I can do right now is look at what they should be like at the start of the conference finals. And by the start of the conference finals, Steph should have been back for a couple of weeks at least, should have been able to play the whole second round. And like I said, the other 3 guys are all going to be healthy by Monday. So
they'll be fine.
The way I look
in terms of timing wise.
So at that point, I think the Warriors, like at this point, they project out to be healthy at the start of that series. And I think if those 2 teams are both healthy, I think the Warriors are the better team. So that's why I say the Warriors are still the favorite. Now, if there is an injury that happens at some time between now and then that has their lineup, has somebody out of their lineup when they get to that series and somebody's missing, then that's a different story. But up until now, nothing has happened that leads me to believe that there is a guy that's going to be hurt then. Obviously, we could say Steph has had all these injuries. He's more likely to have another injury, which is true, but, he hasn't yet. So, and like I said, I'm honestly worried about Chris Paul. I mean, it seems like he is hurting his hamstring once every 3 weeks. And, it would be a real shame if we get into the second round of the playoffs and either one of these teams has an injury like that screws them up at this point. I mean, I just hope we get to, late May and both these teams are healthy and we can get, 5 or 6 or 7 games of them playing and see who's the best team.
I hate this is one of my least favorite things about the NBA is that our discussion over who's going to win the title it becomes a discussion about injured players.
But every sport has that same problem.
Look at football.
I mean, just in baseball too with arms. And I don't follow much anymore, but it's about staying healthy, and which is why the argument of shortening the season, all that, has merit. So we're actually watching the world's best players play at their best when the games matter most. That's always Tom's argument, and I totally get it. But it's always been, I mean, going back to when I was a fan in the '80s, I remember when Magic Johnson pulled his hamstring, and two other Laker guys got hurt, and they sucked in the finals. It's just always stories like that. It's just the way pro sports is. They play so many games, and that's why luck is really big. My only contention is when you first said, and you've since walked it back, and you and I are pretty much in agreement now. You may favor the Warriors if they're totally healthy. I said I might too if I thought Curry was back right away and could get acclimated. But I don't give the Rockets, a 60% chance. I'd say 51-49 if Curry comes back on round 2. Whereas if he came back tomorrow, then I might give Warriors 55% chance. I mean, that's how close they are. I only say people who just say, well, it's going to be LeBron and Golden State. It's just stupid. It's not true. We don't know that. Even if we say they're definitely healthy, they'll win. There's 7 games. Things happen beyond this injury. No one foresaw what the Spurs were doing to the Warriors in Game 1 last year before Kawhi goes down. I don't think anyone expected the Cavs to win 3. Well, if you did, you're smarter than I was, to win 3 straight, even though Draymond was out Game 5. And then, of course, Bogut and Curry. You play the games for a reason, and we're not talking about a bunch of bad teams and only one good team. The Rockets are a superlative team who are playing better now than they have. I mean, they have a 10-game win streak now. What was their previous win streak that just ended?
A lot.
I think 18 or so.
So they've won 28 of how many, right? I mean, they are really on a roll. And I forgot to turn my phone down. And I think that yes, I answered opera.
That is an amazing interruption. Jay, make sure we keep that.
Yeah. That's Mason Dorma right there. That's my. If you call me and you're not my wife or my kids, you're going to get Mason Dorma as a ringer. I just feel like by the way, we can make the same argument. I want to hear it out east. I just think that Toronto's really good. They're great. And I think Houston's great. And LeBron is the best player in the world probably still. And Harden's probably the MVP. And the Durant and Curry are incredible. These are going to be great series. I think they're likely to go 6 or 7 because they're so evenly matched on both sides. And look at Boston. To discount Boston and how the Cavaliers are going to have to get through them.
I'm going to discount Boston. I'm going to discount Boston for sure. I'm going to 100%.
No. I'm sorry. I'm not saying discount Boston to be a champion. I'm saying to what they will extract from Cleveland.
I'm going to discount that too. I'm going to discount that too. I'm not. I don't even think they're going to win a first round series because listen, Brad Stevens is great. They got too many injuries, they're just not. I just don't think they're going to be able to score.
Are those guys out for the first round?
I mean, I don't see any way that Kyrie Irving plays in the first round of the playoffs, and Marcus Smart's already out.
I didn't realize that. That's bad. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get
there's
into
at
that.
least a chance Kyrie could play, but I mean, look, Kyrie, like Steph has proven to be able to come back and be a quick healer and play well. Not like trying to go back to what we were talking about before, but like just as a comparison, Kyrie has not been a quick healer in the past. And it's hard to see him coming back on the short end of the timetable he was set for, which was, I think, early in the first round that he could come back. I mean, to me, I'm expecting both of them to be out for the entire first round. And I think if Kyrie Irving is out for the first round and Marcus Smart is out for the first round, especially if they end up having to play the Wizards, which I think is possible. I mean, if they get Miami, maybe they can squeak out a series against the Heat. I think they could beat the Bucks, but if they have to play the Wizards, I think they'd be in a lot of trouble in the first round.
The Celtics just beat a really, really good Jazz team. In the last 6 games they played without Kyrie Irving, Brad Stevens has pulled down a win. Yeah, on the road. On the road against a Jazz team that's won like a bazillion games in the past month. Brad Stevens eked out another win, and in the last, I think, 5 or 6 games that they played without Kyrie Irving, without Gordon Hayward, and also at times without Al Horford, they've won. They lost Gordon Hayward and started the season 16-2. It's an amazing job by Brad Stevens. I think Duane Casey's going to win Coach of the Year just by default. I
think he should too.
The Toronto Raptors have had an amazing season, but Brad Stevens, I know Horalibus Vulgaris thinks he's the best coach, and he studies coaches and their behavior as well as anybody. He thinks Brad Stevens is head and shoulders the best in-game coach in the NBA. And it's hard to disagree when you see what they've done without Kyrie Irving, without Jaylen Brown, without Al Horford, without Gordon Hayward, with all the injuries stacking up. They had Aaron Baines starting next to 4 guys 23 or younger. 4 guys it basically could be in college. And they still beat a very veteran Utah Jazz team that had been just dominating recently. So, Coach, what is it about Brad Stevens? I know he's a leader, he's a soft-spoken leader, but what is it about Brad Stevens in-game or tactician that you've seen over the years that makes him as good as he is as a coach?
So, I've known him since he was, I think, a grad assistant at Butler. We spent a lot of time together at Final Fours with the guys he worked for who are friends of mine. He and Shaka Smart used to come to our dinners and never say a word. So it's incredible to see what he's seeing. And just for the record, when my buddies were running the Grizzlies, that was the one guy I wanted them to really look at when he was still at Butler. I thought he was just made to be an NBA coach. And
why?
To go
Why? Why is he?
Because I think his emotional tone, his emotional IQ is expert. I don't think he's alone in that. But I also think his ability to communicate very large or complex concepts in very few words is made for an 82-game season where I can get huge chunks of information to how we're going to play this game to my guys in the limited time I can do that because we just don't practice very much in the NBA. So that advantage, just to jump forward for a second, is mitigated come the postseason, which is why Tim can know, because clearly Tim's a smart man. He knows what Boston has been doing with these injuries, but he also knows in the postseason that advantage gets mitigated to some degree because the other team has a lot more time now. And even though they can't do what Brad does over the course of the regular season, they have time now to do it inefficiently and still get the job done in the postseason. So his advantages just aren't as good, and I don't think they'll anyway in the playoffs. Brad, so X and O wise, incredible, right? Look what he ran. Most teams are still running, basically throw the ball to your best player, get out of the way, make a play, pass, shoot. Last night, the game winner for Jaylen Brown, what happened, and I'm breaking this down actually on Flow Hoops this week, is they attacked with a kind of a fake screen, and Brown was inside, and Gobert stayed home because it was a tie game. So Gobert was protecting the rim. Basically, Utah said, if you're going to beat us from 3. And the action created an open player. The Jazz went to cover him because Gobert stayed home. So it was basically 4 defensive perimeter players versus 5 in a sense, or maybe it was 3 versus 4. And then that left the guy ran away from Jaylen. Jaylen was wide open. He made a tough 3. It wasn't the easiest shot. Quinn Snyder's not going to be crying that he left him open in that way. But Brad does that. He just runs actions, and his guys really focus on the Popovich old good to great. Let's earn a good shot, and let's move the ball to get a great shot. And they get it.
No, go ahead, Coach. I thought you were done. I was just going to ask, is it fair to ask if the Celtics have just gotten really lucky this season? Like, I'm not trying to discount.
Yes, you are.
No, Brad is one of the best coaches in the league, obviously. I'm not arguing that. But like that game last night, like they've had several games this year where they've had either like in that streak to start the season, they had a lot of really unlikely wins. And they've had a ton of double-digit comeback wins. They've had a bunch of last-second shot wins. Could they just be getting very lucky in some of these situations, and their win total is inflated a little bit because of it?
Well, here's.
I would tend.
Here's something that
reference thinks they should be 48 and 27, so they're 52 and 23, right?
Right. I was going to bring that up. You beat me to it. I looked it up while you were talking.
They've won a couple coin flip games that are more so than maybe they otherwise would have. I'm going to argue so I look at it this way: your goal in every game as a coach, and I've given speeches about this now, is to blow the other team out, beat the fuck out of them, 25, 30 point margins. Then they can't come back and beat you in the last 2 minutes of the game. If you're the lesser team, your goal is to hang around and which is what Boston has been forced to be, and give luck a chance to happen. And they've gotten a little luckier than usual, but that takes good coaching too. So yeah, probably a little bit lucky in terms of some of the shots they've made. But I would argue that it's because of his brilliance. And then I don't know if Tom knows this, but a couple years ago, I had a player on some team, I don't remember which one, who was talking to Tayshaun Prince. You could look up Tayshaun's game logs and you could figure out which. I could probably use Minnesota. He was somewhere. He had just come from being with Brad, so I think it was Minnesota. And he was telling some guys that I help. He's just blown away with Brad Stevens. And Tayshaun Prince has played for everybody. And he didn't say Brad's the best coach I ever saw. I didn't ask that question. He was just blown away with his talent as a coach and his X and O stuff and the tweaks, the little twists and tweaks he does to a play, in game and then between games, to continue to get guys wide open. And then his guys buy in 100%. I mean, there just is nothing where you would think one of those players is thinking about me. It is all about we. I mean, heck, their MVP is probably Al Horford, because he sets that tone and does so many things on both ends. I don't argue with Tim. If they don't have Kyrie at all, again, because that advantage gets mitigated to some degree in the playoffs, I don't know that they'd beat Washington as readily as they would if Kyrie was playing, because he's a bailout guy. Anytime the Wizards do play good defense, he can still get you a great shot. But if Kyrie does play, I think they give Cleveland a hell of a run in round 2. And without him, it'll be tougher. But it'll still be a war, because they will scope out everything LeBron wants to do and Cleveland wants to do most and make it very, very tough. And then they'll attack where Cleveland's at their weakest on defense, which there's some significant weaknesses there, and Brad will pinpoint it.
So, Tim, you bring up a really great point about them being lucky and all the Pythagorean wins that they've had, and that's a nerdy way. Nerder, she wrote. It's a nerdy way to say that they've been lucky in the end of game scenarios where they've eked out these wins on desperation shots. Jaylen Brown was the latest, but I think this is a little story from when Isaiah Thomas was traded. I talked to a Boston official and I said, you had just about as good a season as you could possibly have asked for last year with Isaiah Thomas, and man, that's a gutsy trade. To get rid of that guy, to trade him away after what he did for your organization. And the Boston official responded and said, yeah, we're probably not going to be as good as we were last year. We overachieved big time from what we thought we were going to be, and we got a lot of lucky wins. Of course, probably aren't going to have the same record as we did last year. And I said, yeah, I probably agree with that. And then he goes, but we still have Brad Stevens. And his point was that for whatever reason, I'm not saying that Brad Stevens has somehow cracked the code on what is clutch, but for whatever reason, the Celtics believe that it is not luck, that it is something to do with Brad Stevens. That I'm
very surprised the Celtics are confident that they've outdone luck. I'm very, very surprised by that.
Well, I mean, this is kind of what coaches are paid to do, right? Is to overachieve year after year, is take the sum of the parts and make it greater than the whole. And I think his point was that Brad Stevens somehow gets more out of the players than we expect. And I think that's what's happening this season, just as that Celtics guy said that, which is Brad Stevens creates magic out of thin air. And maybe he's wrong. Maybe he got lucky again this year, but it just speaks to the fact that last year, Isaiah Thomas was doing remarkable things down the stretch. They trade him, and yet they're still doing this.
Where was Jaylen Brown drafted? Third?
Yeah.
Third.
Where was Tatum drafted?
Third.
Where was Horford drafted?
Third.
I mean, they're really talented guys. So they're young. Brown and Tatum are young. I grant you that. Tatum younger. But he's not just taking G League talent like Popovich has done in a couple cases. He's got really talented players, and I just think they're playing better, faster than what we would have otherwise projected. And he's also done a good job finding a way to use Greg Monroe intelligently.
Right. Brad, listen, Brad's a great coach, a great coach. But like, to me, I think, and maybe Coach will disagree with me on this, I think the hardest thing you can do in coaching is take a team that's playing one way, not change anybody, and make that team play a different way. And that's what the Raptors have done, and they've been incredible this year doing it. And that's why, to me, I think that any debate about who should win Coach of the Year, I think is, I just don't get it. Because I think the job that Duane Casey has done with the Raptors has been remarkable. And I saw them out here in like October, and I remember talking to Duane about the offense and like the way they were going to move the ball and shoot more threes. And I was like, I was thinking to myself, like, I just don't see this working. Like, I know they're going to try it, and I know they believe that they need to do it. I just don't see these guys buying into it. And I mean, look where they're at. They've got everybody buying into it. He's gotten improvement up and down the roster. He's got a bunch of guys who were, kind of spare parts guys other than Jakob Poeltl on the bench that he's really turned into, one of the dominant units in the league.
Valanciunas is good now. Good.
Yep. I mean,
he's a problem.
I just think he's done an incredible job. And
I agree.
And that's not, none of this is a knock on Brad or like, if he isn't the best coach in the league, he's in the top 5 minimum, and he's probably in the top 3. And he's done a hell of a job. But to me, I almost think this race is as open and shut as the MVP race. Cause I just think what Duane has done in Toronto is so impressive that I just think he's got to win the award for me.
I think D'Antoni deserves votes too.
Yeah.
I think you can make. You can make arguments always for that award for a lot of guys, but to me, Duane is number 1 on my ballot with a bullet.
Open and shut case for Duane. Man, Brad Stevens, that roster.
They're going to win what? 60 something games.
I mean, they might get to 60. I mean, they're at 55 now with 6 games to play.
Okay. So they're going to win 59, 60 games with that team.
Yeah.
Last year, that people thought was done, that people were like ready to give up on, and they've totally revamped their entire style of play. I don't know. Maybe Coach disagrees. I don't think there's anything.
No. I think it's a great
take
point.
a team that plays one way and make them buy into a whole new way of playing, and not only get them to buy into it, but play at this high of a level all season doing it.
The buying into it is, Tim, I think it's a great point. The buying into it isn't so hard when you've been disappointed and really haven't sniffed anything special in the postseason. It's the execution, which is more challenging. But I'll add something to it that I've never said publicly before. Every summer, typically when I'm in Vegas, Masai and I grab an hour together, sitting somewhere very far away where no one can see us in one of the 2 arenas where the games are played, and catch up. Remember, I was the guy who invited him to America the first time and introduced him to everyone and gave him my cell phone and let him sleep in my house or the apartment nearby where my players stayed, because I had a bunch of Nigerian kids I was training. Well, he sent them to me eventually, but I helped him greatly, as people know. And of course, I'm incredibly proud of the success he's had. And so we do an hour, kind of the state of the Masai Ujiri family. And it was just a couple of years ago where he told me, and of course I never once said it till right now, after next year, meaning this past season, I'm probably going to blow it up. And we talked about that. I'm not going to go into details beyond that. So to Tim's point, he made a decision. Instead of blowing it up, I'm just going to kind of renovate what we're doing and how we're playing. And if Duane's the coach of the year, which I have no argument with at all, Masai might very well be executive of the year. He's done it. I mean, Daryl's phenomenal, but what they've done in Toronto, their young talent is fantastic. That bench is amazing. And they're built to last a little bit too. And I was watching Valanciunas on tape the other day. His activity on defense has gotten better. He's out contesting people. He was guarding Paul Millsap on a play. It was Wednesday night or Tuesday night out in space, which you would think is just a blowout. Millsap makes his moves, gets to his little patented spin. Valanciunas is sliding his feet. Millsap doesn't have an angle. He goes to take like a contorted shot. And my gut is telling me that Valanciunas should just tall up and make it a tough shot over him. But he went, and you've heard these big guys love to say, give me that shit. Well, that's exactly what Valanciunas did. He went and blocked it like where the ball was low. And he reached down and takes great hand-eye coordination to make this block and just knocked it out of his hands. Like he was competitive. I don't think he was always that way. And he's a bull on offense inside. They're a uniquely built and well-executed team in terms of the design of how they're going to play and then the execution on the court itself. They've done a massive job. So I have no argument with Duane, and nor do I think that they're just going to lose to LeBron James because he's LeBron James. They counter to the Cavs would be a team absolutely in touch with who they are and how they're going to play on every possession, no matter what action you show. We know what we're doing against you because Cleveland just has LeBron James and some athletic young guys throw out there. They're not going to execute the way Toronto does. I don't think it'll be a 4-game series at Toronto's side, but I think Toronto's the better team and will frustrate LeBron because they'll know how to do it, and they'll win in 6 or 7 games based on what I'm seeing now.
It's an incredible season for the Raptors. I disagree with Tim that it's not an open and shut case with Duane Casey when you consider that the Boston Celtics had the fewest minutes returning over last year. They have the number 1 defense in the NBA with all the injuries, with all that youth. They're the 4th youngest team in the NBA behind the Lakers, Suns, and Bulls. They're going to win something like 55 games and have the NBA's best defense over the season. I think that is a hell of a job coaching by Brad Stevens. Does Mike D'Antoni deserve a bunch of votes? Does Duane Casey? Sure. I think it's a 3-headed race in that department. Tom Thibodeau might not be on that number 1 on that list. I'm going to transition there because holy shit, Karl Towns. 56 points last night. He was incredible. I was walking out of the arena last night, the Charlotte game, and I just looked at the Timberwolves score and was like, I'm just going to check out, see who's doing. Oh my God. Karl-Anthony Towns had 50 points at that point. He finished with 56. An incredible, efficient season for Karl-Anthony Towns. The only question I have is how come he doesn't get the ball more? And I know the answer probably goes to Andrew Wiggins and the fact that Karl-Anthony Towns doesn't bring up the ball, and he's not Jeff T. He's not the point guard, and it's harder for big men because they're not point guards to dictate how many shots they have. But can we please get this guy the ball more? He is averaging 54% from the floor, 43% from 3, and 86% from the free throw line. His true shooting percentage is one of the best in the NBA. How come he doesn't get more shots? This should be happening with regularity these kind of nights. Thing,
because I studied him this morning. When you talk, Tom, about getting him more shots, this is not like a dominant center that has to get the ball in the post. And so defenses can orient now better than ever towards that, which dictate where the ball might go, meaning elsewhere, because it's not going to go to him. Watching him on tape this morning, the list of ways he scored last night is as long as any list, because I do this a lot. Well, I write down every action, how they scored. It's a long list. Almost every possible way you can get a bucket. He did. So there's no one way to get him the ball. There's nothing this guy can't do to some degree. Some things are better than others, but he's also a willing passer. Not great, but willing. It's really inexcusable. He should be, and I think will be going forward. The way we've seen Anthony Davis explode as a scorer, as he became one of those guys that can really score every way possible, like LeBron James. These guys can score in more ways than James Harden can. And so as non-ball handlers, there's things you can do that's just as varied. There's no excuse for him not to be a high-level scorer from next season on for sure.
Well, and obviously, I mean, you could argue he's the most skilled big man ever offensively in terms of like the total skill set he's got all the way out past the 3-point line. But
22, and he's basically 50-49er.
I put a lot of blame for this on Karl Towns, though, too.
Yeah, okay.
Because, and you're 100% right, Tom. Like, Wiggins takes too many shots, and They need to, as a team, be like, hey, we've got this guy, we have to get the ball more. But like the coach was kind of talking about this before with Valanciunas, and I think it was more on the defensive side. But like, if you're Karl Towns, like, tell somebody to give you the damn ball. Like, be like, look at what I can do here. Like, I need the ball, guys. Don't just kind of like lope up and down the court and not say anything and then go back to the bench. And like, at some point be like, hey, like Andrew Wiggins, don't take 10 more shots a game than me. Give me the ball. I need to shoot more. Like, at some point, I mean, this guy's an all-star player. He's one of the best players in the league. Like, at some point, don't you need to, isn't there some onus on him at some point to say, hey, listen, you have to give me the ball.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to come walk out there and take the ball out of your hands and do it myself.
Well, look at Anthony Davis. Cousins goes down. Anthony Davis says publicly, I believe, I'm just going to have to be Russell Westbrook. But Anthony Davis could have said that 4 years ago, guys. It's so, Tim, when you say at what point?
At least Anthony Davis was still the number one guy on his, like, he didn't have another number one pick next to him and play most of the year with being the second best player behind Jimmy Butler. I'm not defending Karl-Anthony Towns at all. Sure. And I'm not trying to kill him either.
Yeah, no, you're not.
Everybody just like the constant refrain is it's everybody else.
Most talented players.
Right. Right.
This is part of the growth process. There's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path, as I used to always say from the Matrix. This is Karl-Anthony Towns should have put his head in the pillow last night and thought, oh, that's how you walk the path to elite level, is you just keep coming. There's an energy. I've told the story once before, maybe on this pod, where I saw Dwayne Wade just kill the Mavs by himself in Game 5 of the 06 Finals. And I called, very young Kevin Martin. He was in his second year in the league, I think going to third year maybe, and said, do you see the energy it takes to be a leading scorer every night? Because what Wade just did is the highest level in the NBA Finals. It's hard to do it every night, knowing what the other team's going to bring to you. And so last night, Towns should have been exhausted because he did everything. And then he's got to get hungry. And then it's on Thibodeau and it's on his team to realize, oh, wow, he could probably do that, maybe once every 6 weeks, but certainly get 35 plus on a lot of nights. And then Anthony Towns himself has to have that approach that Tim's saying of, I go 3 possessions without the ball. I'm not going 4. Get me the fucking ball. I'll make the right play. I'm not going to shoot. I'll make the right play. But you got to run an action for me. And if you don't, I'm going to demand an action from me, and then I'm going to make the right read. That's the next step in that growth process for him.
He's 16th in the NBA among centers in usage rate. I want it to be top 5.
Wow.
I need that to be top 5, and that's and Tim, you're right. Some of that falls onto his shoulders for sure. In clutch situations, he has one. Sorry, let me pull this up here. In clutch situations, he needs to have more. Given how skilled he is, he's taken 46 shots in clutch situations. Andrew Wiggins has 60, and Jimmy Butler has 91. Karl-Anthony Towns has got to get the ball more, whether that's his fault or whether that's Coach Tibbs or whether that's Jeff Teague.
Everybody.
It's everybody. Like, Karl-Anthony Towns should be getting 20 shots a night, not 14. And some of that, Jimmy Butler has been out, and he's going to take a whole bunch of shots. But every time that Wiggins has more shots than Karl-Anthony Towns, I think they're doing themselves a disservice. Fantasy sports fans, listen up. Did you know that your chances of winning on Draft are 80% better than on salary cap sites? That's right, 80%. That's why Draft is my favorite fantasy site. No more getting crushed by the pros, and it's not just me. More than 1 million people that have already downloaded Draft 2. Playing a real live NBA draft right now. Be done in under 5 minutes and get paid out the very next day. Drafts are filling up every second, so you can join one whenever you want. All new players get a free entry into a real money draft when you make your first deposit, but you have to use my promo code B2B. That's B2B. That's right, playing a real money draft for free just by using my promo code B2B. But it gets even better. Draft is so sure you'll love it that they're even offering back-to-back listeners a money-back guarantee of up to $100. Just search Draft in your app store or go to draft.com and come play free right now with promo code B2B. else?
I have a question for you guys.
Yes.
So can we, one, agree that the Spurs are probably going to trade Kawhi this summer? And two, give me two teams that you think have what could be a fair trade for both sides.
All right. Well, you got to start with Boston, right?
I think the team is Philly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Philly, and would you say Boston, Tom?
Yeah, just in terms of pieces, yeah.
They're the two most likely.
Boston will not trade for Kawhi.
They won't?
I don't think so. No.
Wow.
What, from a health
standpoint, because they don't. I don't think they can keep Kawhi in a way. I think they know they can keep, or they at least think they can keep Kyrie. And I think the pieces they'd have to give up to get Kawhi, they would not do. Like if you look at what they gave up for Kyrie, they gave up, a guy at the same position who they didn't want to pay. They gave up Jay Crowder, who can be kind of a head case or a headache to deal with. And they gave up yet another first round pick when they had another 10, right? So are they going to actually give up, a couple of their young guys?
Brown, Tatum, right? How much could they pay him, guys? What could Boston pay him that no one else could if they traded for him in June?
Well, they could pay him more money. But
I know that, but I'm asking how much more.
It probably the general number. It's easy to assume like 30 to 40 million total more over the life of the deal. But maybe a little bit more now, maybe closer to 50 with the way that the numbers are. Now I'd have to look at it, but I don't think Boston is that realistic for him. I think they'd rather wait and still try to go get Anthony Davis later anyway. I think that Philly, if he's going to get traded, I think Philly is the team that makes the most sense because
to another Popovich disciple. Yes.
Well, not only because of that, but look, Markelle Fultz has had a nice couple of games. I think Markelle Fultz is going to be a star still. I'm still all in on him. But if you watch the way that the Sixers are playing him, there's a reason they're only playing him when Ben Simmons isn't playing. Yep. And that's because right now they're afraid about his shot. And if they have a couple first round picks in this year's draft that are going to be in the teens, and they've got Fultz. And I think if the Spurs are going to trade Kawhi, that's a pretty nice package for Kawhi. And if there's anybody that I would trust to make sure that Markelle Fultz gets his jump shot working again completely, it'd be Chip Engelland. So, I think that if he is going to get traded, to me, it's either there or the Lakers, because the Lakers could offer all of their guys. And then that would put them in position to get LeBron and Paul George. So I would say those are the two teams that, to me, if he actually is moved, I think those are the two most likely places.
If we weren't headed toward World War III yet, we will if Popovich has to deal with LeVar Ball. Imagine that if the Lakers trade Lonzo to the Spurs, and I don't think it's going to happen, but who on the Lakers are you going to trade to get value back for Kawhi if it's not involving Lonzo Ball? Maybe there's a 3-team trade, but that would be amazing. Kawhi.
I think Jokic should be an interesting guy too, just for the record.
Interesting.
As the main source, I think Pop would use him incredibly well. And
I don't see any way Denver would make that trade.
I hear you, Tim. I agree. That would be.
I think Jokic might be the most overrated player in the league. So I would definitely trade, and I think he's good, but I think his flaws are pretty significant. So if I could include him in a trade like that, I would. But I just think because of the situation they're in and the market they're in, with Kawhi only having 1 year left, I think it makes them tough. It makes them tougher.
I agree that Denver would be worried. You'd obviously have to get some assurances that this guy hasn't got a monster deal yet, and because he's where he's at, 18 is great what he's making now, whatever. But turn down to lose 30 or 40 to go somewhere else, I think would be an argument. But if you can't get assurances from Kawhi, you can't do it. But I think Jokic under Pop would be incredible.
Let's finish on this. What do we make of Fultz? Because you mentioned it there, Tim, earlier, is that he doesn't have much confidence with his jump shot. That's obvious. I mean, that's been the biggest story out of Philly.
He's been better than I anticipated, though, I will say, in these games. He has at least been – he didn't take the 1-3 that was obvious at the end of the third quarter in the first game, but he has at least been pulling up and looking decent from 18, which
with confidence.
Where did he go last night? 1 for 5?
1 for 5, yeah. In 12 minutes.
Guys, listen. I broke all of his shots down. I think he took 8 field goals attempts that he missed in the first game. 7 didn't hit the rim. He sucked.
Well, because he got blocked just about every time.
He got blocked 4 times. He shot 7 air balls, including the 4 blocks. Although Plumlee may have fouled him in the very first one, he didn't react to it. Can't really tell. It was just a pull-up, terrible jumper. I'm not at all interesting.
I thought the interesting thing about that first game was I thought he got fouled multiple times, and I was waiting for him to go to. I wanted him to get fouled to see what his foul shot would look like, and he didn't get a call any of the times.
I hadn't thought about that. I wrote about this yesterday. Actually, I forgot. That's why I studied him. I wrote about him on Floobs yesterday. I like that he tried. He was aggressive. I agree with Tim. He wasn't
the thing I was most excited about. He was like the time he tried to dunk on 3 guys. Like I liked that he wasn't afraid to get fouled.
Yeah, he attacked. He moved the ball nicely. They gave him 8 assists. I mean, they were assists my daughter could have gotten in the game. He did nothing special, but at least he took care of the ball fine. My point is this: he didn't try to make a bunch of shots for himself and a bunch of plays off the dribble, because then we had 5 turnovers instead of 1. He's very rusty. Understandably so. The first play of the game, they basically kind of hedged the ball screen action, and he ran into Plumlee. Plumlee was his worst nightmare in that first game. He caused him all sorts of problems. He's just super rusty right now. But the reason why there were 10 threes available in these games, he's not looking to get open from 3. He's cutting instead of spacing out, because he doesn't want to shoot the 3. It's definitely an issue that's not just physiological, it's also psychological and likely to be fixed, especially in the offseason when there's no thought of games and he can get quiet in the gym and just shoot. Yes, Chip ain't going to be great. Philly struggled to fix it, but again, they're in the middle of trying to win games in the best season they've had since, Dr. J almost. So they are allowed an excuse of, let's focus on Ben Simmons, our real rookie of the year, and not the potential future guy we have. But so going forward, I think they'll work on it some. But I loved his talent coming out. I thought he was a can't-miss guy. As long as you can get into his brain and get him relaxing again, again, love the kid. I also think defensively he can be really good. He's long. He's not weak. He is weak compared to men, but he doesn't project to be weak. He's got a good frame, good length, good movement, great defensive instincts. He should be a plus defender and an all-star player for many years. I'm a huge fan. As long as he can get belief, just like an athlete loses confidence in their jumping when they hurt a knee, a shooter does the same thing when you have that kind of shoulder injury and something happens. So something happened, and it's going to be a while. But I would guess by summer, maybe in July, summer league, we might see a back him to being the old Fultz again.
Is he John Wall?
No. I think he's a very different player than Wall, I think. I mean,
John Wall off the dribble was the fastest guy in the league.
I'm saying Fultz, I feel like at times he's got nitro boosters where he turns on he just super fast.
Wow, really?
I think the better yes. I think he is really fast in the open court, but he's not John Wall fast. I mean, I think
no one is.
No. I think the better comp is one I got when I was at a game texting with some people watching him last year at Washington, which is Dwayne Wade. And I think he might be a better shooter than him.
Yeah.
But in terms of the way he plays and kind of remember now, young Dwayne Wade was fast.
Fast.
Yeah. And
fast, guys. I didn't see that last year. I didn't study that much, but
he's
good
fast.
Lord, if he's that fast, guys. I mean, he can get his shooting was really good.
Well, right. And maybe he's not quite as fast as Wade, but you even saw in that first game, he was pushing the pace.
Yeah,
he was getting the ball and going. And, but I like the Wade thing for him because, to me, he's he because he can play off the ball and he is he's a better shooter than Wade. But I think because I was at first trying to figure out the right comp for him because I didn't think he was quite as fast as Wall and he's a better shooter. And that's when somebody said to me, I think he's more like Wade. And I like that one for him if he gets back where he was. Because I thought he was for sure the number one guy. And I'd still have him as the number one guy in this class. For as good as this class has been, and as good as Mitchell's been and Tatum and all these guys, I think if that guy gets right, I still would pick him over everybody because I think he's just got otherworldly talent.
Speaking of getting right, best wishes to Mr. Joel Embiid. I don't know what's going to happen, but he got laid out by Markelle Fultz. They collided last night, and he went to the hospital for, I guess, more follow-up on whether he had a concussion or what's going on there. It's just so weird. In today's day and age, can we not say that he did not have a concussion? Can we not write that, please?
Yes.
Like, he passed the concussion protocol, but please don't say he did not have a concussion. Why else is he going to the hospital? I don't know. That's just a rant about.
Unless he was getting an X-ray because they were afraid he broke a bone. But yeah, no, I think regardless, your point is correct.
Yeah, it's just
there's no need to say. You can just say the first part without saying the second part.
Right, and I don't know. It's just the way that brain trauma works. I'm not so sure we can declaratively say that dude did not suffer a concussion there because of the right after concussion protocol. I don't know.
Can we throw one other thing out?
Yeah. Go.
Can we just acknowledge that Damian Lillard is having a month?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Especially as a dad, right? Yeah.
29 points a game. Their only losses until they lost to Memphis without him were to Houston and Boston by 4 and 5, I think, or something like that. He's just been incredible. I watched him the other night. Just make the toughest shots look so easy. I shot video of it to give them my son just to say it's not this easy. It's just hours and hours and hours and hours of work to make it look easy. The way he finishes at the rim, his craft to go side to side, reverse, not reverse. You can't really figure out where he's going. His burst of speed. I actually see a lot of Fultz in him because Lillard's got all of it: skill, craft, athleticism. And he can really shoot.
A bigger Lillard might not be a bad combo.
Yeah, maybe a half-inch bigger. Yeah, because I think Fultz is probably a good 6'4". Lillard looks to be 6'2" to me. I looks to be 6'3".
Yeah, but I think he's a decent amount bigger. But yeah, but that's a good comp though. I like. Yeah,
that's who I always thought he was. Lillard's surprisingly athletic because he just doesn't have to show it. He's got so many other ways to beat you. But what an incredible talent he is, and. Because he's in Portland and because he's not Harden, Westbrook, whatever, you tend to forget about him. But he really is one of the best players in the world.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining the Nerdery. She wrote the Nerdery, the Tom's Analytic Nerd Brigade. I don't know what we're calling this show. If you have a better name for this stupid show that we do on Thursdays here on Back to Back, please hit me up. We're really searching. We're really searching right now. We're hunting for a name. Please help us out here. I got some
ideas. I'll text them. I'll tweet them out to you.
Yep. I thought you were going to text it because they're vulgar or something like that. But yeah, please tweet them out. We need all the help we can get. Thank you, Tim, for stopping by. And
sure, buddy.
Dave as well. Thank you, Coach. And Jade, thanks for all you do. Go listen to the House of Strauss, by the way. The episode with Ethan Strauss that just went up on social media, the internet, and politics. He has an interview with Steve Kerr and a friend of his that went after Facebook. Awesome podcast, The House of Strauss. Go listen to that. Everybody, enjoy the weekend. We'll see you right here next week on whatever we're calling this show.
Thanks, guys. It was great.
Thanks, fellas.
See you guys.
All right. Thank you.
See ya.